Anyway, the reason I bring up that fic is because it got me thinking about how I characterize Perry when I write, and just how much different he is compared to a lot of other interpretations of Perry I see in the fandom. Mostly is him acting as like some kind of pseudo father figure for Dev. And I know that he's not like that in canon. I know he's not. So my characterization is probably closer to canon than those, but seeing it so prolific in the fandom makes me wonder if maybe there's something wrong with my characterization of Perry. As sort of, because the way I characterize him is sort of immature in the sense that Perry is a deeply flawed character because he has a lot of unprocessed trauma. And it kind of makes him come off as somewhat childish. Not even in the sense that he's stupid or silly or acts out, but in the sense that he doesn't regulate his emotions or his priorities very well. He kind of treats his priorities, he organizes priorities the same way a teenager would, because he's only like 22, you know? He's 22 and he has a lot of shit he's dealing with and has dealt with and isn't dealing with on purpose. Anyway, which is a long-winded way of me saying I low-key can get really into how I characterize Perry. Because, okay, I know this probably isn't true in canon, because let's be real, Fairly Odd Parents is a kid's show, and I'm definitely overthinking it, but Perry doesn't really act like a godparent in the show. He acts kind of like the cool uncle who doesn't really want to be there because he doesn't like the responsibility of children. Perry, okay, from now on I'm just going to talk about Perry, like, in the sense of the way I write him. He joined godparenting because that's all he's ever really known. And because subconsciously it's a way for him to be closer to Timmy. Not because he actually wants to help kids. Which is a very important distinction, and I think it really shows in the way he interacts with Dev. Because he doesn't really know what he's doing. Not only does he not know what he's doing, but he doesn't realize how important what he's doing is. Because from his childhood perspective, it was mostly Cosmo and Wanda granting Timmy's wishes and helping him have fun. And the parenting part just kind of developed naturally. He wasn't there for those early years and all the, like, hard fucking work that goes into actually taking care of a kid. The way I write Perry is somebody who's deeply shaped by his trauma. I mean, obviously, he had his brother ripped away from him at such a young age. And he goes through his whole life trying to fill up those holes and doesn't really think about how his actions affect the people around him, which is something that will come up later with IREP being a part of the plot. He and Perry were growing closer in canon when Fairly Odd Parents OG left off. I would even consider them friends. And by the time we get to A New Wish, that's clearly not the case anymore. I think in a lot of ways, Perry is still an 8-year-old who's missing his brother. You know what I mean? He's not in a place emotionally where he should be taking care of a kid, even if he really wants to do a good job. I also think character flaws make characters interesting. Like, if I wrote Perry as perfectly mature and capable of handling Dev and helping him become a better person, that would be really boring. Story needs conflict, you know? And since the story is mostly about the characters, the conflict has to be character conflict. I also think Perry is more than a little bit spoiled, to be honest. Like, he was a celebrity basically from the time he was born, even before he was born, really. His brother was also a celebrity in fairy world, and his family completely adored him to bits and pieces and doted on him incessantly. It's not like Perry growing up didn't have struggles or anything, but you gotta admit he's probably really spoiled. You know, never wanting for anything type thing. Everybody adores him to bits and pieces. I think a kid like Dev is just completely the antithesis of anything Perry is familiar with. I also think there's an element of Perry being like the youngest fairy in fairy world. He's used to being the baby in the room, even though he argues with his parents about treating him like a baby. I mean, they're like 100,000 years old or something. Perry is basically still a newborn to them. And him being a godparent so young is especially funny because It's just like a baby taking care of a baby. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to take care of a kid. He's used to being the kid, you know? No, I completely agree. Perry should not be godparenting. His ass should be in the club drinking to forget about his trauma. I feel that way. I feel like I have such a dissonance from the majority of the fandom because every single time I see like a Perry's parenting dev type fic, I'm like, why is that boy a parent? He should be in the club. He should be making out with people who remind him of his brother. No, you're so right. Perry should be writing a dissertation on something he lost his passion for ages ago and drinking too many energy drinks. Oh my god. This is, like, again, part of why I think he became a godparent, just because of its connection to his past. Because, like, when you grow up doing that and it's literally why you were born and it's such a big part of your identity, what else are you supposed to do? Like, can you even do anything else and still be yourself, you know? It'd be like if I stopped writing. I think about Perry's sense of identity all the fucking time, to be honest. Like, he is defined by his connection to godparenting, and more specifically, his connection to Timmy. So, like, whenever that got ripped away from him at such a young age, what do you even do with your sense of identity after that, you know? That is literally just a piece of you. I think if Perry did go down the road of dentistry, he would have had an existential breakdown and quit. Not gonna lie. I literally, even though I keep harping on that, the fact that he's a bad godparent, literally what the fuck else is he supposed to do? I think he could try doing something else for years, but it would just be lying to himself. It would be convincing himself to be something he's not, and everybody would be able to tell that it wasn't genuine and he didn't mean it. What else is he supposed to do? This is who he is, even if he's not good at it, even if he doesn't like it, even if he doesn't really want it. There are some things about the circumstances of your birth that you can't will away, you know? I also really, this is like side note, but I also really enjoy the headcanon that Peri is a strong fairy, not only because he's Cosmo's son, but also because he's born from a wish. So he's like very intimately tied to magic in its purest sense. He's born out of belief. That is pretty heckin' incredible, really. Really romantic. No wonder I ship him with Timmy.